Chapter 7. Pearl sat at her desk, the quiet rhythm of the morning settling in around her. A ledger lay open before her, notes neatly written along the margins, her pen resting just to the side. From upstairs came the faint, steady sound of movement, footsteps passing back and forth across the hallway floor. Jessica. She was working through the cleaning without being asked twice. Pearl allowed herself a small nod. A soft knock sounded at the office door. Pearl looked up. "Come in." Mr. Norris stepped in, closing the door behind him with quiet care. "Miss Pearl," he said. "Mr. Norris," Pearl replied, setting her pen aside. "What can I do for you?" He lingered just inside the doorway for a moment. "You have a minute?" he asked. "Private, if that's all right." Pearl rose from her chair. "Of course," she said gently. "Jessica's upstairs working the hallway. We won't be interrupted." Mr. Norris nodded once, seeming satisfied, and moved a few steps further into the room. Pearl stepped out from behind the desk, giving the conversation a more equal footing. There was no rush in him, but there was purpose. "I've been thinking," he began. Pearl smiled faintly. "That can be a dangerous thing." Mr. Norris gave a short, quiet chuckle. "So I've been told." He clasped his hands loosely in front of him, considering how to begin. "That young fellow next door," he said. "Joshua." Pearl nodded. "Yes?" "And the girl," he continued. "Jessica." Pearl's expression shifted, still calm, but now attentive. "Yes." Mr. Norris tilted his head slightly. "You see it too, don't you?" For just a moment, Pearl's thoughts drifted back a few days. Joshua had stopped by the office to pay his rent before heading to work. Jessica had been there, helping sort through a few papers on the desk. When she looked up and saw him standing in the doorway, something had changed. It had only been for a moment. A faint blush had colored her cheeks. She had stumbled over the paper she was holding, suddenly unable to find the words she had been about to say. Joshua, unaware of any of it, had exchanged a few pleasant words with Pearl, paid his rent, wished them both a good day, and left. Pearl remembered glancing back toward Jessica. She had been watching the door long after it had closed. There had been something in her expression that Pearl hadn't quite understood at the time. Not certainty, not even attraction perhaps, more like someone unexpectedly caught off guard by a feeling she hadn't been expecting. The memory passed as quietly as it had come. Pearl looked back at Mr. Norris. Pearl didn't answer immediately. She took a moment, studying him, not with resistance, but with care. "What is it you think you see?" she asked instead. Mr. Norris smiled faintly. "Possibility," he said. Pearl exhaled softly through her nose, the hint of a smile touching her lips. "That's a broad word." "It is," he agreed, "but it fits." He stepped a little closer, lowering his voice, not in secrecy, but in respect for the conversation. "They're both standing in the same place," he continued, "just from different roads." Pearl folded her arms lightly, thoughtful. "Jessica's barely found her footing," she said, "and Joshua isn't exactly looking for connection." Mr. Norris nodded. "I know," he said, "which is precisely why I'm not suggesting anything. Direct." Pearl watched him now with quiet curiosity. "I was thinking about the event room," he continued, "downstairs." Pearl's brow lifted just slightly. "That's not unusual," she said. "We've hosted enough gatherings there." "No," he agreed, "and that's the idea." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Something simple, something for the building." Pearl held his gaze. "And you expect the two of them to just happen to spend time in the same space?" Mr. Norris's smile returned, subtle but unmistakable. "I expect nothing," he said. "I simply think it might be worth giving them the opportunity." Pearl looked down briefly, then back up again. "You're matchmaking?" "Not officially," he replied. There was silence for a moment. Pearl turned slightly, glancing toward the office door, as though she could see through it, up the stairs, into the hallway, into the lives quietly unfolding around them. "She's young," Pearl said quietly. "And he's cautious," Mr. Norris replied. Pearl looked back at him. "They're not looking for this." Mr. Norris nodded once. "No," he said, "but neither was I when I walked through your door 3 years ago." That landed. Not forcefully, but firmly. "You saw something then," he continued. "Gave me a place without knowing what it would lead to." A small pause. "You're not the only one who sees potential, Pearl." Pearl's expression softened, not yielding but acknowledging. "I'm not suggesting interference," Mr. Norris added. "Just an environment." Pearl considered that. Not the idea itself, but the spirit behind it. "And what kind of gathering are you imagining?" she asked. Mr. Norris's eyes lit just slightly. "Something casual," he said. "Music, maybe. A few people. Nothing structured." Pearl smiled faintly. "Music?" "I might know someone who can help with that," he said dryly. Pearl let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh. "And you believe this will help?" she asked. Mr. Norris gave a small shrug. "I believe it won't hurt," he said. That made her pause, because that was true. Pearl lowered her gaze for a moment, then nodded once. "I don't think it's necessary," she said honestly. Mr. Norris didn't react. "But," she continued, lifting her eyes again, "I don't see harm in it either." That was enough. Mr. Norris nodded, satisfied. "If we're doing this," Pearl added, shifting into practical thought, "it needs to be simple. No pressure, no expectations." "Agreed." "I'll have to check timing," she continued. "Make sure it works for everyone." Mr. Norris smiled. "I'll leave that in your capable hands." Pearl shook her head faintly. "And you?" "I'll bring the music," he said. There was a quiet understanding between them now. No grand plan, no certainty, just intention. "Let's see what comes of it," Pearl said. Mr. Norris nodded once. "Yes," he said. "Let's." He turned toward the door, pausing just briefly before opening it. "Thank you, Pearl." She didn't answer right away, only gave a small nod. And as he stepped out into the hallway, the building continued around him, quiet, connected, unaware that something small had just been set in motion. Inside the office, Pearl remained still for a moment longer. Then she returned to her desk, not to write, but to think.